Welcome to the Double Broker Bounty Hunters Stop the Scam. Here are your hosts, the Double Broker Bounty Hunter, John Cantera, and Dispatch Kate, Caitlin Price.
Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. And another one gone.
Hey, folks, welcome to Stop the Scam. This is our 25th episode. Thank you all so much for keeping up with us. We definitely appreciate the support, and we're here to kind of really drive home some of the stuff we've been hitting for the last 25 episodes. Both Kate and I have got some stories of some bad brokers we've been dealing with lately, and some do's and don'ts for everyone to think about as they move through their day. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start kicking things off. Kate, it's good to see you're with us. Let's hope that this is actually the first week in 3 weeks that you may actually be on for an entire show.
Yeah.
So, so what was happening? Would you lose your internet last week?
Yeah. So the storm hit. That storm hit? I think it was like the 9th, right?
Yeah, it's like 3 weeks ago. It was 3 weeks ago.
So we were out of power for 10 days after that. Finally got back online Wednesday. So power went out Monday at 5 a.m. I was able to get back on the following Wednesday morning, like 10 days afterwards. And then last week my internet went out at the end of the episode for about, 15 or 20 minutes or something. And then it came back on. And then the next day it went out again and was out for like 5 days. So I had to go home and grab a hotspot or go somewhere where we kept all of our storage stuff, grab our hotspot and bring it back. And that's what I've been working with.
Working as dispatchers, the two things you absolutely have to have: power and internet. And if you don't have that, then you are completely boned. that sucks that you've been going through that. I'm glad things are finally starting to stabilize for you.
Yeah, and I couldn't even use my phone because where we live we don't really have good service at all. So I couldn't just work off my phone, which would have been a pain. It's fine if you're doing that for, 1 or 2 people or whatever, but when there's 8 or 9 of them, it's a real pain in the butt. So
well, I kind of want to pick up the discussion where we kind of left off on our last show, and that was with regard to Amazon and some of the scams that are going on out there with regard to Amazon. If you recall, folks who are listening, we were dealing with an epidemic over the last few weeks of scammers who are impersonating brokers for the purpose of illegal rebrokering of Amazon loads, usually off of Amazon Relay and stuff like that. We went through some of the ways that these guys are doing it and some of the things that you need to do to avoid handling that. Well, the latest rash that we have been through, I've gotten 6 claims from carriers who needed to file claims against Amazon for those loads. Those claims have finally been filed. So hopefully in the next 21 days, those carriers should get their payout from those loads. Now, for those listeners out there who wind up getting stuck in this situation and are looking for guidance, one of the things I can tell you is, yes, we can file those claims to Amazon for you. But no, you're not going to get the amount of money you think you're going to get. Amazon, as a standard practice, typically only pays 50% of your rate confirmation as a settlement. And frankly, in my world, it's better than nothing, which is what you're going to get if you don't take that settlement option. It's not great, but that's Amazon for you, and good luck fighting them. Because if you're going to fight them, you need an attorney to do it for you, and I don't know of any who will stand up to the army of attorneys that Amazon will throw you. But I am happy to say that we've been collecting on average about $2,000 a load. So that's pretty damn significant. It just really sucks that these brokers are clicking on these damn clickbait emails, these phishing emails that are going out about DAT. So, brokers, if you're out there and you're listening, please, whatever you do, DAT is not going to do a damn thing to your account and then warn you about it by email first. It doesn't happen. If they deactivate your account for any reason, they just deactivate it, and then the next time you go to log in, it sends you to the membership screen where you can go and you can renew your membership. So don't fall for that scam, please, because the minute you click on that link, you just gave a scammer your credentials, and you better believe they're going to hack your account at some point. Oh my God, I can't stand that. It's happening so damn much. I can't see straight. I think actually today is the first day I have not seen one of those loads during my normal dispatch day. Have you seen any of those, Kate, today?
Honestly, the only time I think I've seen them is on DAT, and I only use DAT like for maybe an hour today or so. But I feel like I saw one on Truck Stop the other day, and I think I sent you a picture of it.
You
It was
did.
really weird.
You did, and it is exceptionally weird to see them on Truck Stop. Now, I'm not sitting there trying to evaluate Truck Stop versus DAT. I mean, we all know the pitfalls of the big load boards, but those of us who are dispatchers, we're stuck using them anyway. I mean, as dispatchers, as dispatch services without our own broker authority, we're required to book all loads through brokers. We can't use direct relationships with shippers or anything like that. You need to have a broker authority. So DAT and Truck Stop are staples in our industry. And if you have a dispatcher you're interviewing to possibly use with, and they're telling you, oh, no, we don't ever have to use those load boards, they're liars. I guarantee you they're liars. Because I get probably, I don't know about you, Kate, but I usually get about 70% of my loads are coming off of a load board. I've got tons of broker relationships. But whether or not a broker has a load for the exact lane I'm looking for that day is a crapshoot. So I don't know about you. I mean, how often do you book on a board versus through other brokers?
I mean, 99 point infinity times off the board, but I do have one particular broker that I like to work with and it's pretty similar to just working off a board, right? He asks me like, hey, where are your trucks at? And I tell him, and he's like, oh, okay, I'll send you a list of whatever we have that's in there. So it's pretty similar. It's not like he's reaching out to me and telling me all these different loads that he has all over the freaking country and just kind of guessing whether or not I have somebody over there. Which never happens. Yeah. Or it's a bunch of flatbed, like full-size flatbed stuff. I only work with hot shots, and I all the time get full-size flatbed emails. I don't have these.
Oh, yeah. Brokers I may have long-standing relationships. When they send out stuff, they're still sending me 53-foot and 48-foot flatbed for my hot shots, and it's like, come on, guys, what the hell? I'm with you on that. It drives me insane sometimes. But at the same token, what I don't get is I don't send out my own truck list yet, and I need to. The problem is my own truck list keeps updating, every week. So I've got to go through and I keep updating it, and then I completely forget to send it out. And
it's really hard to keep up with that too, because you have to every morning. The thing, I don't want to think first thing in the morning about where 10 different people are going to be at what particular time. So like, I don't really want to send an email that says all about Calling Corp, MCU, blah, 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 blah. This guy, Josh, Brady, Dustin, Marquise, JR is going to, they're going to be in all these different areas. Like, I don't want to do that. And then I have another MC and then another one and then another one. And it's too much for my brain at 6 o'clock in the morning.
I can't argue that at all. I feel the exact same way. 6 and 7 in the morning, I'm still trying to figure out which way is up and figure out where the coffee is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not always thinking about what time my guys are going to be delivering. I try to go through and organize that the evening before, just so I've got an idea. When I walk in, I look at my spreadsheet and I got an idea. But I mean, until I go into my Life 360 to see where everyone is, I it's just a forecast. It's just an estimate.
Mm-hmm. Aha, you like
Um,
that, don't you?
I used Life 360 before. But I've had a couple carriers that I had to bring them into it, kicking and screaming, and then I've had enough carriers turn over that I was like, oh, okay, perhaps I don't need it right now. But I've got what? I've got 8 carriers now with 9 trucks this week. So I need to know where the hell everyone is. And I told everyone this weekend, I was like, guys, we're reconnecting to Life 360. For those of you who don't know, Life 360 is a free tracking software that you can use. It basically just runs off of a phone's GPS, runs in the background. It does not do much in terms of burning on a battery. So it's actually a very efficient tracking tool. Great for dispatchers, great for fleet owners. If you're looking for something that's simple and inexpensive. So by all means, life360.com. Check that out. Both Kate and I endorse that and use it. So in the meantime, there is some news that I do want to go ahead and go over. Those of you who know Kate and I, we met working at NOAA, National Owner Operators Association. And their biggest rival is OOIDA. That's the Owner Operators Association. It's been around for forever, 50 years. And they've got their own online magazine called LandLine. Some of you are familiar with it. Some of you may not know that OOIDA actually owns LandLine. But I saw an article last week on LandLine, and it really piqued my interest. So I kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit today. It's about FMCSA putting the blame on a lack of data and a lack of statutory authority when it comes to dealing with scammers in the industry. And it's not just the international scammers, it's the domestic ones too. Kate and I spend a lot of time and energy calling out bad brokers and bad carriers across the industry. MABE is a prime example. And even though we submit all these reports to FTC, FMCSA, DOT, a lot of them tend to go, unanswered. And, the initial thought is, they don't have enough enforcement capability, or it's just not in their wheelhouse, or whatever excuse you want to give them that week. But what they are telling Congress is that, one, they don't have enough data. And OOIDA keeps going on. The reason why FMCSA needs to step into this is because, double brokering is a safety issue. And FMCSA has a hard time understanding that. And I'm going to quote the director of security operations over at OOIDA. When you're a small carrier that is involved in one of these broker schemes, you're not paid. And that takes away from the bottom line. When margins are razor thin, you have to make a decision. Maybe I'll try those tires, or maybe I'll try to make those tires last a little longer, etc. These are safety issues. And for some reason, I can't understand for the life of me why FMCSA does not get that razor thin margins translate into safety issues for everyone in the industry when you have these scammers taking carriers' money like this. Forget the issues with bad brokers for a second. We're just talking about the scammers that are out there right now. I think that is just a cop-out and then some by FMCSA saying, we don't have enough information to show that there's an issue with a safety impact. That to me is a huge cop-out. What do you think, Kate?
I agree. I totally agree. I actually just had this conversation with somebody the other day because we were discussing ELDs and a kind of a misconception that people have about truck drivers in general. Everybody, there's this huge idea that there's, you know, a huge risk because they'll just drive themselves ragged, you know, drive until they're so tired that they can't go anymore. And I'm like, that's really not what happens. The worst part is now we've got ELDs and they're trying to get somewhere because the margins are so thin and small. They're trying to get somewhere as fast as they possibly can to make up for the loss of money that all of this that's transpired for, I want to say, over the last 2.5 years or 2 years or so, 3 years. Yeah, they're trying to
I'd
make
say
it
three,
for
but
all that. Yeah, so they're, you know, trying to, whether it's driving faster or changing routes, you know, taking faster routes, whatever seems to be faster that may not be safer, but it's not a case of them just driving themselves ragged. They literally can't.
Now, the one thing that I will put into FMCSA's defense from this particular report is they cite the inability to enforce some of the regulations that they have out there. Now, we already know as dispatchers, they can't really enforce the rules and regulations they put out as to whether a dispatch service requires a broker authority or not. They throw a penalty out there. They've got some structure for it, but enforcement is a whole different ballgame because their focus has always been on safety. But this is a quote from FMCSA. We need to refer cases to the Department of Justice for the assessment of civil penalties for violations of commercial regulations that creates a significant barrier to enforcement, including for unauthorized brokerage violations. Well, that actually makes a little bit of sense to me here. Okay. You and I have both filed complaints about brokers and carriers throughout our time dealing with fraud in the industry. And more often than not, it comes back saying it's either a civil matter or we need to refer the matter to the Department of Justice. Whether or not the Department of Justice takes it up becomes a whole new ballgame. So what FMCSA is really trying to plug here, at least what I'm getting from this, is that they're seeking the federal government to give them the necessary authority to actually impose these fines on their own without having to go through the Department of Justice.
Good.
So I think that is a very valid thing to do. And I think that it could be, frankly, a financial windfall for FMCSA to have that capability. Because remember, each one of these instances of double brokering carries a $10,000 fine per occurrence. So if you have these dispatch services who are conducting illegal brokerage, or you have carriers who are illegally rebrokering cargo to owner operators that they say are leased on but are not leased on properly, et cetera, then that needs to be dealt with. And if FMCSA had the teeth to impose those fines, then I think we'd see some improvement in the industry. That's, again, my 2 cents. Take it for what it's worth.
I agree. I do very much agree. I think it's ridiculous that there's not like a clear path to report certain levels of fraudulent activity. There's not like a well-known source to go to or something. It's you can go through a bunch of different people and you'll get a bunch of different answers. Oh, go here. And then that person tells you to go here, and then they tell you to go here, and then they, and then nobody ever does anything by the end of it. So it's, I mean, not always. Sometimes they do, but it takes forever to get to the right person. The damage is already done by that point.
And at this point, with what you and I do, it's about trying to prevent the offender from suckering in yet another victim. Mm-hmm. I mean, how many times have we seen this with Mabe? I'm seeing it now with other carriers that I've been investigating, where owner operators aren't getting paid. I In fact, I think this might have been while you were out. I was working on a case where a carrier sent fake COIs to their owner operators to
Oh, I
show
remember
that
that.
they had insurance, but in reality, the policy that they were quoting on the COI had been dead for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So those carriers did not insure their owner operators at all. And on top of it, they were collecting rebates off of the settlement to pay for that insurance that they weren't providing. So I mean, we report these people as often as we find them, but we would like to see the federal government actually doing something with those reports to stop these people from doing these things.
And there's
You
so
were having
many that we can't
oh,
keep up. There's no way to keep up, and it gets worse all the time, every single day. And people know that. The people that are doing it know that, so they know that it's like you got to find a needle in the haystack of shitty people, and those are the odds that you have of having one person dealt with.
now, we're not saying it's so easy to commit fraud in this industry that everyone should do it. Okay, far from it. However, I think it turns into an evaluation at the Office of the Inspector General at DOT as to the level of fraud that's taking place. That when you have multiple complaints coming in at it, and once you hit a specific value threshold, that's when the federal government, I think, is finally dedicating resources to step in to try to deal with things. Because let's face it, DOJ is not going to sit there and want to deal with nickel and dime accusations. And by nickel and dime, I'm saying I would consider a 4-digit impact within the industry. I think once you hit 5-6 digits of impact in the industry in terms of economic damage, that's probably when they're going to start stepping up and saying, okay, now we're hitting felony levels. Now this is something that's tangible and that we might have the ability to go after. To me, it's frankly BS, because these guys are tasked with protecting the industry. And this is an industry that, like healthcare, if it goes under for any reason, if it shuts down for any length of time, the impact is catastrophic to the economy as a whole. I mean, how many times, Kate, have you and I dealt with folks out of Washington, whether that was in our time with NOAA or whatnot, where it only takes 3 days of truckers not running in this country, 3 days for this country to be entirely paralyzed from top to bottom.
Yeah, and that's statistic. That's statistical information.
Yeah, there's no misinterpreting this. Day one of no trucks running, you have grocery stores bleeding down their reserves at their distribution centers by over 75%. Day two, distribution centers are completely empty, and grocery stores start running out of prime necessities. Day three, grocery stores are completely empty, and it would take weeks to restore the supply chain to get grocery stores back up to where they need to be. And that's just groceries, folks. Okay. Healthcare becomes an entirely different ballgame. Most hospitals, and I know this because I've actually done a lot of logistics work dealing with the medical industry. Hospitals maintain only a 3-day supply of materials. So 3 days of surgical work, 3 days of regular lab work, whatever. They only have 3 days worth of supplies on hand, and that's at the facility. So they've got daily trucks running from distribution centers to supply the different hospital networks all over the place. So again, that's another thing. If that shuts down, good luck getting lab work done. Good luck just getting to a doctor's appointment. Good luck getting your medications at the pharmacy. The impact that this industry has on the U.S. economy is profound. And I think that is why it is such a target for international scammers, is because they know that they can shut this country down uh, if they can disrupt the network in such a specific way. And they're getting close to being able to do that. We're fighting it, but it's taking individuals like Kate and myself who are constantly trying to raise awareness of it to be able to make any headway, because the federal government certainly is not doing anything about it. Now, the final part of this particular article that I do take, I wouldn't say offense, but I don't think it's accurate. OOIDA thinks that broker transparency is the solution to a lot of the double brokering going on. And I completely disagree with that. Broker transparency will help fix the rift that exists between brokers and carriers. It would build back that trust, and building back that trust will eliminate some of the space in which these scammers operate. These scammers operate in that area of distrust between the two groups. So it may help in that regard. But broker transparency in and of itself, I don't think is the answer to the double brokering problem. It's the answer to a lot of other things, but not to the fraud that's in the industry. But the only thing broker transparency does, in my opinion, is it will stop any kind of, it will minimize the greed, or at least expose the greed that exists on the broker side. You know, it's kind of hard for a carrier to hide greed or hide any costs or effects or impacts, because, you know, we have to share that with a broker. You know, if I tell a broker that, hey, my truck broke down, I'm going to be an hour late, you know, blew a tire, you know, oh, well, send me a receipt from the mobile maintenance guy as proof, please, so we can pass that on to the customer. Okay, here you go. Well, they get the evidence pretty damn quickly, you know, whereas if we turn around and we ask the broker, hey, you know, we're looking for that TONU. And, oh, well, you know, the customer didn't approve it, so we can't send it. Oh, customer didn't approve it. Okay. Well, we're invoking our rights under 49 CFR 371.3. Show us the books. And then they go completely ape crap because, hey, the broker did get paid TONU, and they just didn't want to pay the carrier. Now, that kind of fraud, that kind of activity, yes, broker transparency would stop. But I don't think it'll stop the double brokering. What's your take on it?
I agree. I even think that one thing that I don't understand is, why is there not like a bottom line, like a minimum that just transfers along, you know, as we go by inflation and fuel prices and things like that? Why is there not just like a minimum? That just doesn't. I mean, I understand that there are like partials and some things are not, you know, dedicated, and I don't know. Or maybe just like minimums based on the length and weight of something that you're carrying.
There used to be something like that, and that was back when the ICC was still around. You know, but the ICC was disbanded, 10, 15 years ago? Hopefully one of our listeners might be able to chime in with the comments and refresh my memory. The ICC was responsible for monitoring the markets and would set a floor to the truckload market when we were at risk of going below that. Now, that's why the statistics come out from the Department of Transportation every year as to how much it costs to operate. And if I recall correctly, the last time we saw that statistical analysis, it was saying that the average
it was $238 a mile, I think, for a regular dry van.
Yeah, that's for a 53-foot full truckload. So with that being the case, now granted, they did say that lumps in everything. That lumps in flatbeds. It lumps in hot shots. It lumps in all this other stuff. Hey, we got Shane jumping in. How you doing, buddy?
What's up, buddy? Sorry I was a little bit late. So,
Hey, you're fine. You're fine. We're pretty much open micing it, so
sweet.
it's cool. It's cool.
That Central Time always throws me off, you know.
Hey, it's probably because you don't live in Central Time. You live in one of those other worthless time zones.
Yep. Hey, Now you do a show on Mondays, and I got another live that I do on Wednesday. I always get the 2 times mixed up. So, so how you doing, Kate?
Oh, let me tell you, I was a rage monster earlier.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we didn't hit on this yet. Oh, go ahead. I'm sure our audience would love to hear about this one. Hit it, Kate.
So, let me just do this really quick one first. So, this is a different story. So, prior to that one, I had tried to book a load for someone, and it was just a vehicle going from Louisiana to I don't remember where, in Texas, Louisville, and it was a new broker, so whatever. I'll work with them if it's cash on delivery, and this one was. So, cash on delivery, blah blah blah. All right, that's fine. We'll take it. He's here. You can be here in X amount of time, whatever. So we were getting all set up, and everything was going fine for the most part. And then he texts me out of nowhere and says, mind you, this was supposed to pick up today and deliver tomorrow. He texted me and said, hey, my customer just told me that the person buying the vehicle has a problem with the payment and it will be available Wednesday. Do you think you can do it?
Nope.
I'm like, okay. I feel like you were implying that I'm stupid and wouldn't catch that, but all right. So anyways, that was the first one. I just said no and left it alone. This other one, I had a load that was picking up it was a forklift picking up in Rockford, Illinois, going to Columbus. And the place closed at 4. Driver got there at like 3.
Hold that note. I got a question for you when hauling forklifts.
Okay.
What type of forklift was it? Was it battery operated?
I don't know. They never even brought the thing out.
Well, listen, if it's battery operated and the battery is plugged in, that is now a hazmat load?
I didn't know that.
No.
Absolutely. If the battery is separate from the forklift, it is not a hazmat load.
So how do you define separate? Oh, unplugged.
Unplugged or separated from the forklift.
Okay.
So I used to haul forklifts, and that was something that I found very strange. Is if it's plugged in, it's hazmat. If it's not, then you're good.
That's interesting.
I'm not sure how you can explain that difference.
Hey.
I mean, I always unplug. Okay, if it's electric, I always unplug the forklift once it's on the truck anyway, because I don't want it moving.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
If it's propane powered, I disconnect the tank and seal the tank. So I mean if you're a carrier and you're not doing that anyway, you got a problem.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry, Kate. That was some of that Snapple cap useless information that somebody might be able to use one day.
Utterly useless. Right. Absolutely. Please, Kate, continue.
So guy gets there at like between 3 o'clock and 3:15 is when he actually arrives to the shipper. And we know that we're picking up a forklift. Our, Raycon just says it's a forklift, says what model and things like that. So we get there and the driver tells him, hey, this is what I'm picking up. Here's my order number. Here's, blah, 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 blah. And the guy says, okay, we need a release form. I'm like, okay. So I emailed the broker and I said, hey, shipper needs a release form in order to load this shipment. They won't load it without the release form. Guy emails me back and says, crap, where'd it go? He said, okay, let me get it. I said, okay. Give him a few minutes. He emails again. He says, I'm just waiting on the owner to send it to me. Should only be a couple minutes. Okay. That was at 3:26. The last one, 3:26. Okay, mind you, they close at 4:00. So I never did get an answer. So then it comes around to like 3. It was like 3:43 when the driver called me. 3:43, and he says, "Hey, these guys are telling me that they're going to go home. Basically, too bad, so sad. You can come back tomorrow if you want and load the thing." And we're like, well, we don't want to do that because we have another load on the trailer that we need to drop off, right? So I call the broker. First time he didn't answer, whatever. I call again, a different number, and the guy answers. And I tell him what's going on. I said, we need this release form. They're trying to close. And he says, okay, let me try to get it. So he puts me on hold for a while, comes back a few minutes later, and he's like, I don't know what to tell you. I can't get it. And I was like, okay, well, all right, you can just send over Tanya. It's not that big of a deal. And he's like, what? What's that? What'd you say? I said, Tonu, Tonu. He's like, what is that? I said, it stands for truck ordered, not used. Truck was ordered, truck was not used. And he's like, well, did you drive all the way over there without the release form? I said, yep, that's not our responsibility to know that we need a release form. That's yours. We're not aware of that, right? Our job is to read our paperwork and go pick it up, make sure that it's the correct thing, be on our way. Your job is to make sure that we get the correct information. So he's like, okay, so you went all the way over there without the release form? Yes. Well, then I'm not paying you shit. Whoa. All right. Okay. Enjoy that.
What broker was that?
AAA Transport Solutions. And then he called me again a few minutes later, right? Because I just hung up on him after that. He was like yelling at me, and I don't take kindly to that. You're not gonna yell at me. So I hung up on him. Whatever. He calls me a little bit later, and he says, did you get it picked up or not? Because you sent us an email saying that it was picked up. I said, who sent you an email? Because it wasn't me. And he's like, hey, pull that, talking to his coworker or whatever. Hey, pull that up. Pull that email up. Who was that from? And he's like, what's your company name? And then he's like trying to go back to the other one. Whatever. It was a whole thing. Lo and behold, I didn't send him anything. He was just calling me back to try to like be a smart ass or whatever. Well, haha, you said that you picked it up already. No, we fucking didn't. But anyways, so then I was super pissed because he said he wouldn't pay it on you. It wasn't even my issue with it is not necessarily that he just wouldn't pay it on you. There's a way to go about that and a way to handle yourself in that type of situation. That was 100% your fault. Had nothing to do with my driver, had nothing to do with me or the company that I am representing. That was your fault, and you failed to provide us with the proper information. So you should have to pay for that. You should have to pay for my driver's wasted time. I don't get anything out of that. I don't charge people for Tanyas. I get nothing from that. It's a principle thing. You pay for somebody's wasted time that you facilitated.
First off, you're out there booking loads and securing ship carriers, and you don't even know what the hell a Tanu is. I mean,
hang on, because then, actually, I'm gonna email you this picture if you can. Well, maybe we shouldn't bring that up. I'll just read it.
Okay.
I went back and looked. I'll be honest. I don't read the terms and conditions of every single rate con. I don't have time for it. Most of the brokers that I book with are brokers that I've booked with 1,000 times before. I don't go through and read all the terms and conditions on their rate cons. Like this one. Now, this rate con, I went back and I looked, and it says in here, AAA Transport Solutions is in no way responsible for any truck ordered not used fee. It is the responsibility of the carrier or driver to contact the shipper prior to pickup and confirm load dimensions and weight to ensure that their equipment can transport the load.
So vaguely, they're making a failed attempt at refraining from having accountability. Unfortunately, they did not go into detail enough for that to actually take heed. I mean, it's what they put there. That's just verbiage garbage. I mean, that would not hold up in any type of court of law. It would. I mean, the only thing that would hold up for is if you've got there and the dimensions were wrong. But second off, they can't put their responsibilities off onto a carrier.
Right.
Because the carrier is not a broker, nor carries a broker authority. So,
and there's a fine line when they want the carrier to start communicating with the shipper. Okay, so but yet I'm sure somewhere down in that broker agreement or that broker carrier agreement, it says that you're not supposed to solicit the shipper. So now, what are you supposed to do? You're telling me not to contact them, but then you're telling me to contact them. It's only whatever fits your agenda. Yeah,
it's utter bullshit. Is what it is.
I mean, complete. The fact that they put in there, we're not responsible for any TANU. You're responsible for making sure that the dimension. No, first off, it should have been listed right from the broker. If the broker knew what the hell he was doing, was a good broker, all of the dimensions would have been mentioned correctly. Listen, I have one particular customer through my brokerage. They send very odd size equipment. It's usually hot shot equipment. Hot shot loads. And because of the manufacturing on this type of equipment, there's about a 2.5 foot piece that sticks out in front of these items that they make. So when they give me the dimensions, the office personnel has given me the wrong dimensions before. So we tried to get it on a step deck and it wouldn't fit on a step deck. So made all kinds of arrangements. We even considered flipping it upside down so it could overlap one another and everything else. And it was good to go. They were going to do that, but now you're working about damaging the equipment and this and that. So, but they also know if they gave me the wrong dimensions and that carrier is stuck there and has to leave because they can't load it, they also know that there's at least a $250 TANU responsible. Yeah. And they're fine with that. Because they understand that some of their stuff is oddball, and they know that when I ask for the information, I ask for everything, soup to nuts. And they gave me the wrong information on it. So they didn't like it because we ended up having to get 2 trucks to carry their load, and it increased the rate by almost double. But, they weren't happy about it, but they realized that it was their screw up. So.
Mm-hmm. And that's what they don't like. That's what a broker doesn't like. If they can have their customer approve it or whatever, or pay for it, then that's fine. But if they think for a second that they're going to have to pay for it, no way, man.
Well, like I said, in the instance I'm referring to, they had, I want to say it was 4 of these units. They should have been able to fit all 4 of them on a 53-foot step deck. Mm-hmm. But when you start adding 2.5 foot on each unit, now they're overlapping too far and they would have been too much overhang. Mm-hmm. If we would have been able to flip them upside down, one after the other, then we would have had just enough room. So I had priced them out for a 53-foot step deck, and it was going from Texas to New York. So, it was no cheap rate, was, it paid considerably. But then when I contacted, I says, look, unfortunately, here's where we're at. I said, you basically just doubled your rate because it's going to take 2 trucks. And, right. There was some hemming and hawing back and forth. And, at first they were trying to, first it's that initial shock. And then they're like, oh, well, you sent in the wrong truck. No, let's go back to our emails. Here's what I asked you. Here's what you told me. This is what will fit on that truck. I said, this is the reason I asked you for all the information. And, I explained it to them. That they're great people. That's the reason I work with. I actually got them from TQL, kept fouling up their loads. And somebody that I knew that was dispatching, one of his carriers had stopped in there, and they had another issue with TQL, and they're like, please help us. And ever since then, I've been basically their sole broker. But
nice.
Eventually what had happened was I was able to get the load moved through one carrier, or it was two carriers, but it was through one dispatch company. And instead of actually doubling the entire rate, I was able to shave some off of both sides off of each side of the rate. It came out to about 1.5 times what they were initially quoted. So they were thrilled. They took a little bit of a hit. I took a little bit of a hit in my percentage. The carrier was happy with what they got. So it all worked out in the end. But those, that's not always the case. So.
See, these are important things to hear, though, and carriers need to hear stories like that to understand what goes on behind the scenes. A lot of carriers sit there and think that, oh, brokers are out here to screw us every which way from Tuesday. Yes, there are brokers out there that are looking to screw you every which way from Tuesday, but that's not all brokers. You need to know who you can trust, who you can't trust. And I think we've all got stories of people that we can and cannot trust. I mean, it's like I had a bad experience with Atlantic recently. Atlantic has always been really good for me. I've always gotten really good rates out of them. And one of my carriers had to cancel a load with them the other day. And they blacklisted my carrier. Now, we never had an issue with them before. We've done several loads with that broker through this carrier before. Never been a problem. So why they go and they blacklist us because we canceled on the load, I'm still scratching my head over. But, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But the only thing I can say, unfortunately, that is my very first DONU for any of my customers in the 5 years I've been doing this. Okay. I've never had anyone that got a freight card. So it's been threatened more times than I can count, but we've been able to avoid them. But it's still, there are a lot of good brokers out there. Most are good. If you know who you're dealing with and you work with them on a regular basis, there's usually no secrets between you. You'll know what their percentage is. And if they're saying 10 to 15%, that's a good percentage for a broker. Okay. If they're telling you 40%, well, now they're ripping you.
I mean, our rule is between 10 and 15% on general freight. If you're getting into something where we got to get permits and stuff like that for oversized loads or something that's strange like that, then, orchestrating pilot cars and things like that. Now the rate's going to go up just minimally. I mean, at the very most, we're looking at, 18 to 20%. And that's with some very entail bookings. I mean, that's not just, that's not your everyday freight. Everyday freight caps out at 15%. I don't think that, I think 15% is a fair enough rate to where a brokerage can sustain themselves, and it still allows enough for the shipper to actually save a little bit in shipping and their shipping costs, and it actually puts more money in the carrier's pocket. When you're comparing yourself to some of the larger entities that are taking 46%, I wanted to bring up something that we ran into this week. One of our favorite large scale factoring companies starts with a T and ends with an H. We had an issue with a client where a broker that we've worked with many times in the past. The factoring company had approved them for factoring. So after we made the delivery, factoring company was trying to confirm it with Triumph Pay. Triumph Pay insisted that it was no such load. So the factoring company went back and forth with the brokerage. And listen, the broker agents are busy. They're out there trying to hustle. So they're not going to have time to read every email that comes through. They're not going to have time to respond to the factoring companies when, and the factoring company had contacted us 3 times in 2 days. This load is not valid. We're trying to get in contact with the brokerage, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm stuck out of town. I was out of town. I was on vacation for a couple of days, and I got hemmed up with all that damn airport nonsense. So I'm I have limited access to the computer, so I'm trying to do it in the evening hours, see what's going on. And I got in touch with the factoring company. I'm like, listen, I would email them. Everything on this rate confirmation looks legit. I'm double checking the phone numbers that are on the rate confirmation for all the contacts. I'm cross-checking them with the FMCSA's website. I'm cross-checking them with Carrier OK. And everything seems legit. There's nothing on this rate confirmation that looks like it's anything that's suspicious. So I'm like, look, it got to the point to where the last night after they sent the carrier a notification that I contacted the vice president of the company. And it was at 9:00 at night. I left him a voicemail on his cell phone. And I said, look, I don't know what's going on. Factoring companies having issues. Rather than go back and forth for another day with the factoring company and Triumph Pay, I says, I want to get you involved to make sure that your freight wasn't double broken. You know, the guy calls me within 15 minutes, 9:30 at night. The man, 9:15, 9:30 at night, the man calls me back. And, again, I'm a dispatch company. So for somebody like that to be calling a dispatch company, first thing he's going to do is question the hell out of me, which I expected. And I says, listen, I'm a contracted representative for this carrier. I says, the factoring company's having issues getting in touch with someone at your brokerage. I said, Triumph Pays refusing that the numbers that the numbers aren't correct and that the load's not legitimate. He goes, listen, I took all your information from your voicemail. He goes, I looked through everything. The load's 100% legitimate. He goes, Triumph Pay is nothing but a pain in my neck at this point. He goes, I have a meeting in the morning, but I'll have this resolved for you by mid-morning. Come to find out, there was a TMS issue between the company and Triumph Pay. Triumph Pay never recognized any of the information that was being put through. So the load was 100% legitimate. Triumph Pay dropped the ball on it, didn't have the information, whether it was, a glitch or what. But so if anybody out there has any issues like that, don't take Triumph Pay's word for the golden. Still do your homework and make sure that you're protected from any type of double brokering. But don't just take Triumph Pay or your factoring company's word for the gospel. You have to do your due diligence. This could have turned into something where the carrier lost the rate. But we were able to salvage everything. By the next day, everything was taken care of and all was good. But had us running around with chickens with our head cut off for, about 15, 20 minutes.
Sometimes I hate to admit, but as a dispatch service, that happens. And I think it happens a little more than any of us would want to admit. I don't know how many times I come across a situation where a factoring company says, hey, something's not right here. Okay, last week. I've got my own account with another one of those big factoring companies, starts with an O, ends in an R. And usually I don't have any issues. But this one particular carrier was trying to get this one invoice paid for like $600. And the brokerage was just hemming and hawing on this and would not respond to OTR about the validity of the load. And I was like, now hold on here. Here's the broker's name. Here's the broker's phone number. Here's the broker's extension. Here's the broker's email. I just spoke to them. They said, yes, it's valid. And it's already been passed over to their accounting. Here's the accounting guy's phone number. Here's their extension. Here's their email. Please contact them. They'll clear it up. And this went back and forth for 3 freaking days in the comments section on the portal. I keep saying, call me. Let's talk about this. Call me. Let's talk about this. And the guy wouldn't freaking call me until we finally got the owner of my carrier involved. And he's like, okay, I've had enough of this crap. I'm calling my account manager. We're going to 3-way this thing. And it turned out to be 5 people ended up on this call, including a VP from that factoring company, until we finally got it all sorted out. And the guy's like, dude, just freaking call the freaking accounts payable guy. Let's finish this thing. And of course, we had it done and paid for 15 minutes later. There are good guys. There are bad guys. It happens out there. And I think every single one of us can recommend a big player in the factoring world that we can somewhat recommend, and a small player in the factoring world that we can recommend. So if anyone ever needs recommendations on this stuff, let us know. We can tell you the horror stories. We can tell you the good stories. We can tell you everything.
Absolutely.
No one is perfect. No one is perfect. But I've got a question for you, Shane, and I want you to put your broker hat on. Okay. I don't know if you've been listening to the earlier part of our show. Earlier in the show, I was going on about an article on LandLine, OOIDA's news magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And they had an article out there going on about why FMCSA is having a hard time dealing with the double brokers out there. And one of the solutions that OOIDA puts forth is a strict implementation of the broker transparency law. Okay, specifically what they want to see is and this is a quote, to require brokers to automatically provide an electronic copy of each transaction record within 48 hours after the contractual service has been completed, and to explicitly prohibit brokers from including any provision that requires carriers to waive their rights to access the transaction records. Now, to me, that second part is a given. That's part of the law. But that first part right there, as a broker, how would you feel if you had to report that kind of information in that manner?
I mean, to be honest with you, the second part, like you said, the second part is just mumbo jumbo, because you're in a court of law, you are not able to sign your rights away. So that's neither here nor there, the second part. The first part, honestly, listen, man, I mean, if you're a broker doing the right thing, give them the damn rate confirmation. Give them the agreement that you have with the shipper right off the freaking bat. If you don't have nothing to hide, there's no reason that you should be hiding anything. Why wait 48 hours? Why wait? Now, I mean, 48 hours doesn't accomplish anything. 48 hours doesn't accomplish nothing. It just tells that broker, or I mean, that carrier that, hey, yeah, you might have got screwed this time. Just make sure you don't do it next time. You know?
In fact, isn't that all the broker transparency rule does? I mean, you can't invoke it until after the load's done anyway.
See, I think, to me, honestly, after the fact. If you ask my opinion 100%, if they would break down broker transparency the way it was intended and the way that I review it, there should be two separate transactions. There should be what the carrier is going to get for moving the load, what the rate is to the truck, and then the broker's commission off of that. And neither one of those two should ever intersect or cross over one another. They should be two totally different transactions. And you know what? I mean, to wait 42 hours before you have to produce it, that does nothing. You know, you want to do something that's going to change the industry and it's going to protect people from double brokering and shit, make them do it right then, right there, right off the bat.
Yeah, part of me would like to see where load boards are instead of it being a negotiation, it being, this is the rate for this load. If you want this load, this is how much you're getting paid. This, and then another column that says this is how much the broker's been paid, and so on and so forth. Now, the only problem with that is now you've got other brokers saying, "Oh, really? He okay? Who do I need to call to undercut him so I can get the work?" You know, that's the only downside to that. So I can't begin to understand how to get around the competition side of being able to advertise, okay, this is what our margin is on this particular load, and this is the rate we're paying, period.
They're already all doing that, though. They're already all doing that. And fifth wheel freight, let's take them as a prime example. They're my favorite example. They'll go in and undercut everybody to get a load just so they can, and they rebroker it for, not rebroker it, but then they broker it for just retarded amounts. Like, and then I've had brokers that are in the middle of like a bid load, and I'm like, usually I don't really pay any mind to it. I'm just like, I'm not interested in a bid load or whatever. But every once in a while, if it's something that I really want, I'm like, okay, yeah, keep me posted. You know, I've got time or whatever. I had one guy, I want to say that it was from Trinity. A Trinity guy ended up calling me back or something. And he's like, yeah, fifth wheel freight fucking underbid me or something. I'm like, oh man, it's always them. It's always them.
Well, you know, FWF, TQL, JB Hunt. I mean, you just pick a 3-letter acronym, and you've got people who sit there and look for ways to screw each other over. I mean, let's face it, sales guys, that's what they do. Their job is to bring the business in however they can get it in. That's what they do. So the question is, where do you filter out the greed in the industry versus the utility of public good? Where do you draw that line? And no one's able to define that line. Everyone knows that line needs to be there.
In my opinion, that comes to the shipper. All right, shipper, what do you want? Do you want somebody that's hauling your shit for pennies on the dollar that, doesn't take care of their equipment, has a massive list of CSA points against them, has all kinds of safety issues, but they'll take it for, 50 cents less on the rate, but then again, like I said, I mean, if, if you're doing this transparently and you're doing it as a separate negotiation where it's not what's left over is going to the truck and whatever you can get out of the truck is going in your pocket, then you're building a better relationship for everyone around. You're able to save the shipper and their shipping costs, and you're able to put more money in the carrier's pocket. And I mean, the shippers have to realize this too. Okay, yes, I might be able to, if so-and-so from XYZ Logistics, he's seen what my rate was that I'm bidding it for. He's seen what the other broker's shipping it for. He can save me 50 cents. Okay, well, how many times is that load going to break down? How many times is that load going to be late? Are these people that you've dealt with in the past? Is it somebody double brokering? And on the other side of the coin, with what you're getting at, what about the Landstars or the TQLs, where you have a broker representative that gets the account from, the sales department, and then they've got their 15 minion, support team underneath of them, and each person that touches that load is getting a kickback going into their pocket. It's the shit like that needs to stop.
Hey, two things. One, did you know that when Landstar calls a broker in an attempt to rebroker their load, they don't lie to them. They straight up tell them, like, hey, I'm Bob from Landstar. I want to, cover your load or whatever. But a lot of times they do give them the impression that, Landstar is physically going to haul it, which is just untrue. But they do call and express that, hey, this is so-and-so from Landstar. I want to fucking run your load or book your load or whatever. And people are okay with that. They're okay.
I want to take your load.
They're just doing the same thing. All Landstar is doing the same shit. They're going to post it on the
I have to
the
give
same way that you did.
There was one Landstar broker I worked with last week that I was, yes, he had a foreign accent. And then I got a phone call from apparently the original broker of the load. And he's like, yeah, look, I'm co-brokering this with Landstar. He's like, it's my load, and I have a co-brokering with them. He's like, but I like talking to the carriers myself.
Oh, I
so
don't.
I'm calling you so that we understand each other as to what's going on. He's like, I'm already paying him his portion of commission, but I want to make sure that this load goes okay. I have huge respect for that broker for being so transparent about
Absolutely
that to me. Okay. I would applaud that every day of the week. I would be ecstatic if people did that. Guys, stop hiding crap. It's just.
And now, don't get me wrong. Now, listen, I'm not going to lie. I've had some Landstar broker agents that were phenomenal. Few and far between, but there's a couple of them out there that are really good, and they'll really work with the carriers. I mean, and they provide a decent rate. I mean, right. It all goes. It's the fact that they let too many entities. Okay, perfect example. Large brokerage starts with a T, ends with an L, and loves to take 46% of the rate. So,
gee, who could that be?
I don't know, but
WKRP
one thing that we found with them, they're using dispatch companies to broker their freight. They're hiring dispatch companies as independent broker agents to broker for TQL. One of them in particular is such and such Rolls-Royce team at TQL. I've fought with those guys. Oh my God. I'll tell you, if I ever see anything posted on the load boards, I go and make complaints against them. That's how bad I hate these guys. Everything is, they beat you up for everything. They won't pay any detention. And it's a bunch, it's a bunch of hood rats is what it is. And I mean, we've cursed at each other for an hour on the phone to where I almost lost my voice. If I could have reached through the phone, I'd probably be in jail. You know,
but that's also the whole mentality, the whole culture at TQL.
Yeah.
I talked to a former TQL broker, after he finally got out of his non-compete and all that time, spent his 2 years off and whatnot, who was like, yeah, well, when I went to work for this other brokerage, I had no idea what the hell these guys are talking about. I thought it was supposed to be, stab each other in the back, get as much as you can. This cooperative mentality is something I've never heard of before.
Well, TQL, they go into the colleges.
Guys?
TQL goes into the colleges for these people that got business majors and got some information, got some experience behind a computer, and they hire these guys on a commission, a base salary with commission. And then these guys, and then they teach them, hey, listen, hey, yeah, that rate's paying $3,000. Hey, if you can get it covered for $1,100, we'll split the profits with you. And it's that stupid ass mentality that's killing our industry. But yet, TQL got the big pockets. Nobody can file any complaints against them. Nobody can do this. And, that's why. Well, you know what? It's time for the truckers to say, hey, listen, enough's enough. I mean, and it's sad because you hear everybody talking shit. Oh, I'm not overhauling that cheap freight. Blah, blah, blah. Well, listen, cheap freight, nobody can define cheap freight. Because cheap freight is different for you than it would be for me, than it would be for the next guy. So cheap freight, stop talking about the cheap freight. Start talking about predatory bullshit business practices. That's what you need to watch out for. I mean, cheap freight, listen, who knows? Maybe I maybe I got some inheritance and I didn't have to spend any money and I don't owe any money on my equipment and I got good running capital. Listen, my operating costs are going to be, minimal compared to what somebody that's out there paying for a new rig, a new trailer, not that much experience with high insurance costs. So, yeah, all right, I can haul it for, $1 a mile. Does that mean I want to? No, but, so it's just the people got to get out of the mentality of the cheap freight. They need to get into the mentality of who the predatory service providers are. Know who's screwing you. Know who's screwing you, know who the hell to stay away from, and put them people out of business by not giving them any business. Because what?
I'm sorry to say that's from experience, though. You can go online and you can read the comments that people like you and I will leave about bad brokers, and how many people actually read them? How many people are actually going to dig into it and look? How many shippers are going to look? Almost zero. So. You have to take everything with a grain of salt. If you have been in this industry for any length of time, you know who to avoid. If you haven't, you're just trying to get in because you took some 30-minute course from some YouTube jockey who thinks they're the god of dispatching.
Get your
I
authority.
know that's hypocritical.
Buy a courier van. You can make $15,000 a week, guaranteed.
And then those people come to us.
I have a transit van. Can you keep me moving as a dispatcher? Nope.
I hate those.
I can't stand them. I get asked at least 3 or 4 times a week if I can do a sprinter. In no freaking way. I'm not going to waste my time. It's
First
not
off, that's a totally different niche. It has nothing to do with the freight industry. I mean, a box truck's bad enough. No offense, John.
Oh, I know. No, I'm
not going to argue that. You start breaking it down into courier vans and extended panel vans, and I'm sorry, that is exactly what I just said, a courier job. That is a job where you go contract with a major courier in a major metropolitan area, and you run mail or small deliveries for them, so that they don't have to be getting, they don't have to wait for the trucks to break it down on a cross dock to bring it into the metropolitan areas, New York, Dallas, Houston, Chicago, things of that nature.
Oh, you got to love this stuff. Any final thoughts, guys? It's about time to start wrapping this up.
I don't think so. I think I got my venting out.
Come on now,
Shane,
you're in trucking. You can't ever get it all out.
Hey, I cherish so much, no bullshit. I play lots of, I can't really just call it instrumental music because people think of instrumental music as like elevator music and stupid ass shit. But I very, very much like video game soundtracks. They're like magical and soothing and so zen sounding. And I listen to that shit all day long sometimes so that I just don't drive myself crazy. Like brings me back to center.
I kind of like the sound of breaking glass and accidents and shit like that, you know.
I don't like anything that raises my blood pressure.
Oh, Shane, thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate it. For those who need to get a hold of Shane, you can find him at freight-medic.com, and he can definitely help you out with all sorts of stuff. Check out his website when you get the chance. For all the rest of you, anytime you got issues with fraud in the industry, you can hit up both Kate or I, Jay Cantera, vigilanttransport.com, K Price at rockdovefs.com. Please do me a favor, like and subscribe so you can get more content notifications from us as we have these things. And every Monday at 5 o'clock Central Time, Shane, Monday, 5 o'clock Central Time. We are here
I'll have to
talking
put that in
live.
my Google Calendar there, you know, that I never use.
There you go. There you go. It's okay. I'll still have to text you to remind you. But yeah, go ahead and check us out so that we can go ahead and help you with any of the information that we get coming on. We'd like to talk about the stuff that we've experienced over the course of the last week, and hopefully it is stuff that can help you out. So a big reminder for everyone to stay safe out there. And whatever you do, please don't let scammers take you for a ride. We'll see you next week.
Take care, guys.